Hello, I'm Michael Verney and welcome along to the Indo GAA podcast with thanks to AIB. AIB is at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county, and in 2025 they're celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championships. With this year's championships shaping up to be one of the most competitive in years, AIB is more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. Check out the hashtag #TheToughest for more. Well, delighted to be joined for our hurling chat by John Mullane, and I believe, John, I have an apology to make, have I, from last week?
You do indeed. To all the disgruntled Bee Gees fans, I think you got the song wrong, did you? I think you were thinking of.
I was thinking of the Hot Chocolate, So You Win Again. Now that's a fair tune now as well. I wasn't.
Hot chocolate, I believe in miracles. So
yeah.
So.
Well, that's another tune as well. Now there's one of many tunes, but I believe the Bee Gees You Win Again is your party piece, Mull, by all accounts, is it?
I know, geez, it's a party piece for numerous GA people. I suppose when you win a trophy, and I suppose anytime the Monday club is in full swing, or the night you bring a cup back to the parish or the community or anything like that, I suppose it would be probably one of my favourite ones. Anyway, you win again, the Bee Gees, and you followed it up and you looked at the song and said, Jesus, Mull, that's an absolute belter of a song,
Yeah, and I was in my head for most of the last week now, to be fair. The big question is, who will be singing the Bee Gees or who will be singing Hot Chocolate after this weekend? Will it be Cork and Offaly? Will it be Cork and Waterford? Will it be Tip and Offaly, Tip and Waterford? We've obviously got big league finals to look ahead to at the weekend, Mull. Just a quick one though, because we have to talk about it. We obviously we had Joe Baldwin on the show last week, the Fermanagh manager. They unfortunately came up a bit short in the Division 4 final. But I just want to read out a couple of quotes from Tom Dempsey, the former Wexford star, obviously, and he was just speaking in the Irish Independent this morning. He just said that he was sick and tired of the lip service being paid to hurling by the GAA in the wake of the furore surrounding the choice of venues for last weekend's Division 2, 3 and 4 finals. So in a scheme for the Division 2 final, there was no 65-yard line marked out. London and Mayo met in Kildare's training centre in Hawkfield, while there was no fourth official for the Division 4 decider up in Truach and Monaghan. Tom just said, it's crazy stuff and it's a disservice to hurling. That's not good enough at all. If we're not going to promote the game properly, then how do we expect it to expand? That's the bottom line, really. It's a lack of respect. There's no doubt that football is a more populated game and there's more counties involved in it at a higher level, but nothing will ever change in hurling if we keep treating people that way. Not to have a 65-yard line for a national final is mad. These are things that we shouldn't even have to address at this point. These are things that should be addressed quite a while ago. The problem is that in some parts of the country there is just lip service being paid to hurling, really, and the GAA don't help with stuff like this. You have to give the game the proper respect. It really is the one national game. It's a heritage game and not getting the publicity that it should be getting. We're going to be a 10-county hurling country forever if we don't look into these things and sort them out. Well, what do you reckon? There should have been only positive commentary at the weekend with national finals going on, but it was dominated by negative commentary. And listen, rightfully so, really. I'm not saying that these finals should be played in Croke Park. I actually don't think they should have been played in Croke Park, but there's no reason why Cork and Tipperary couldn't have been joined by Down and Kildare, and no reason why Offaly and Waterford couldn't have been joined in a triple header potentially in Nolan Park with London and Mayo and with Fermanagh and Louth. I just think that makes more sense rather than sending them out to these kind of outposts in the middle of nowhere, really, with conditions obviously not suitable for national finals.
Yeah, well, look, you couldn't argue with anything that Tom said there. I mean, Tom and I know Tom. He's a straight talker, great insight of the game, and for me, everything he said there is on the button. So we kind of got an insight into the difficulties and the challenges that lie ahead for the likes of the Fermanaghs and the Louths. As of last Tuesday, they had no date, they had no time, they had no venue. And then the follow on then from last Tuesday into the weekend and to see what unfolded. I actually watched the Down Kildare game. And look, when they were tuning in, I actually thought the game was supposed to be penciled in for Croke Park, these finals originally. But to see the the game that both Down and Kildare, put on in testing conditions, is a testament to both those counties. And I couldn't get over the standard of both those counties. And I was like, I was really, really impressed by Down in particular, and the strides that they have made within the last couple of years. And I think the strides that they've made, where the topic of conversation now is that, will we have the Ulster final back, where possibly Antrim and Down could go and partake in an Ulster final, a separate one-off game. And when you see the likes of Down and Kildare, making those strides, and then to be treated the way they were last Saturday, and this is not having a cut off of the club venue, because great credit has to go to the club venue for offering up their venue, but to have national finals in club venues, it's just not good enough, and it's not acceptable. And I think someone has to be held accountable to say, well, right, you're looking on and you're seeing the football finals being played in Croke Park, and you're seeing the planning and the thought that went into the football, and then you're seeing what plays out then with the hurling. It's just something not right, and I think it's a crossroads now. And I know Willie Maher, and I think he's a great appointment.
Starting today, I think, Mull.
Starting today, but it just goes to show you how big of a challenge that he has going forward for the next couple of years, to try and grow the game, to try and grow the game. When you see these stumbling blocks being put in place to prevent the game from growing, really,
Yeah, and that's and that's coming from the top, Mull. So imagine how his job really is going to be to build it up from the bottom, which is the grassroots. But when you're getting that message sent from the top about hurling's place within the GAA, particularly lower tier hurling, you're really on a hiding to nothing. He's got a really unenviable job ahead, in my opinion. I hope he succeeds, but I think he's really behind the 8 ball before he even starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you go up to, you're up around the Ards Peninsula, up around Portaferry, Ballycran, Ballygallagher. They're as passionate as you get hurling in regards, being passionate for the game of hurling, than you get anywhere across the country. And, I was actually taken back by some of the performances, Sands, McGrattan, and you probably would have been raised in that 92 team, and when Down, back in the early 90s, Down had a tremendous team back then. I think a couple of the Down players, couple of them got All-Star awards back then, and they were winning All-Star titles. And I suppose, yeah, it's thoroughly disappointing that they couldn't really go and have their proper day in the sun, and go and celebrate it in the manner in which they want to celebrate it, by celebrating it in a proper venue, i.e. maybe even a Tullamore, a Thurles, a Portlaoise. Everyone wants to play in Croke Park, and you just touched on it there. Probably what should have played out, when you see what played out with the football, the planning should have went the same way with the hurling, as you said, Cork and Tipperary, and have your Division 3 final with it, or your Division 2 final with it, and then your Division 3 final with the 1B final,
Yeah.
But look, I think lessons have to be taken from this, and I don't think this can play out again, going forward into the future.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not rocket science, really, and it's delaying 2, 3, and 4 by a week.
But Michael Verney, sometimes the common sense, we're poor when it comes to common sense, with certain things, so yeah, sometimes the common sense approach is never taken on board, and these decisions then are just kind of rushed through, and whilst they're rushed through, then it's kind of, then you scratch your head and say, oh, why do we go and do that? So yeah, you'd hope to think that look, going forward, that this won't play out again,
Speaking of common sense, and we won't go into great detail on this because people will think we're being negative and we're not, but the fiver added to admission for all the Munster round robin games is, I think it's unnecessary, to be honest with you. I think it's unnecessary, particularly how difficult things are at the minute. I don't know about you, Mull, but the paycheck don't stretch as far as it does at the minute, I can tell you that. And adding on an extra fiver to things, we don't need to get into a big conversation about it, but I do think it's unnecessary as well. But we have two cracking games to look forward to. It's rare enough me and you are pitted against each other, Mull, too. We'll come back to that now in a minute. Offaly and Waterford. But Cork and Tip is a really tasty game to look forward to. Throw in at 4 o'clock. It's going to be a belter of an atmosphere. It's going to be a real cauldron for Tip to be going down into. I'd be very surprised if they're not strongly outnumbered, given the direction the flow of tickets seemed to go in pretty lively at the start when they went on sale. What are you expecting here, Mull? Cork are favourites in most people's minds, probably 3, 4, 5 point spread. Tip have had a brilliant league though. They've already beaten Cork in this league as well, which is a very positive thing coming into this game. This is the potential to be a right good game, if particularly if Tip stand up to the plate.
Well, this is the big place for Tip, just to really see where they are right now in regards, have they made strides or under Liam Callan. I think they have made strides, and look, you have to applaud him. He's, he took a few risks and leaving out a couple of big name players, a couple of experienced players, but then to throw in the young lads and to freshen it up, and as I touched on, no matter what happens at the end of the campaign. Any manager that in the past that has freshened it up, giving young lads their opportunity, should be applauded for that. But this is the ultimate test for him now. To go down to Cork, as you said, 45,000. You will be thinking there could be anything up to 35,000 of those tickets will be taken from the Cork supporters to go down and play a real, red hot in-form Cork team right now, who are really burning it up. Scored 10 goals within the last 2 games, and really after Sunday, you'll get a good gauge, and Liam Cal will get a good gauge of where Tipperary really are at right now. They've had a good league campaign up to now, even going down, even a big one, playing in wider pitch dimensions like Parky Queeve, that kind of plays similar to Crow Park. Like, you go through the venues that Tip played today. They've played in Salt Hill, they've played in the Gaelic grounds, they've played in Thurles, but they haven't and played in Nolan Park. They haven't played in a real wide, open, expansive area like Parky Queeve, and then coming up against a team like Cork who are full of running. I suppose from a Tipperary point of view, Liam Cattle, you look at the next 4 weeks, it's a massive 4 weeks. And, they play Cork, Limerick, Cork. Doesn't get any harder than that. Yeah. I mean, and the frightening thing about it is that after those 3 games, they go to Ennis. I think they've a week off, and then they go to Ennis. So in the space of 5 weeks, they've Cork, Limerick, Cork, Clare. And I think the big thing for Liam Cattle will be come the 10th of May or the 11th of May, where they have to go and travel to Ennis, is that they're in a reasonably good place going to play Clare. So look, what will they want to get out of it? If I put you in Liam Cattle's shoes right now, you have the league final, you have the potential green machine coming back to town in the Thurles 2 weeks' time, and then you have to go back down to Cork. What's the ideal scenario for Liam Cattle after those 3 games?
Oh well,
no. If you were to give Liam Cattle an option now, right? League title, beat Limerick, draw with Limerick, or pick up something against Cork in 3 weeks' time in the championship, knowing then that you have to face into Clare and you have to go to Ennis, potentially to possibly stay, to probably still stay in the championship. So what, what if you were Lean Cat right now, what would you take?
Well, you'd probably take a narrow defeat in the league final and having 2 or 3 points on the board going down to Ennis, wouldn't you? But like, I think the scenario is, right, they had a bit of a... It was probably a bit of a blow midway through the league against Limerick, and everyone thought, oh, that's the tip bubble a bit burst or whatever. And they came back brilliantly, beat Cork obviously thereafter in the league as well. So like, they've taken a little bit of a sucker punch and people questioning them, and already kind of bounced back during this league. The ideal scenario, Mull, would be a league title and 4 points on the board, but that is a hell of a lot to ask. I do think really competitive at the weekend, really competitive, 1-score game and die with your boots on, and that keeps the momentum going. What they don't want is what happened last year. And they weren't even beaten that much by Clare in the league semi-final, but it was just like all the air was sucked out of the balloon, and all of a sudden they were totally on the back foot. Limerick ransacked them in their first Munster game, and they saved something against Waterford and gave themselves a chance or whatever. But it's, even in defeat, it's to be ultra competitive. Like, you could come away with a hell of a lot of credit out of the next 3 games without a trophy and with 0 points on the board. Do you know what I mean? It's all about being really competitive and making sure that momentum is kind of, the ball is kept rolling. That could mean they're on 0 points going into Ennis, though, realistically. That's probably the most realistic scenario.
But isn't it mad to think, like, the challenge that lies ahead within the next 4 to 5 weeks of what Lean Cattle faces into, like, But I'd agree with you. I think, even if they did come up short the weekend, and throw it back to the Tipperary supporters, right? Are you going to get behind us now for Limerick in 2 weeks' time, and get a big home following, that will really get behind this team for when Limerick come to town? But you're 100% right. I think what they can ill afford is to be beaten by 7 or 8 points, and they're going away from that game saying, right, Jesus, we have to try and pick it up now for Limerick in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and concede 4 or 5 goals or something like that, and you know what I mean.
And after investing so much in this league campaign, all right, then like a bit like last year, to fall away by the wayside. And I just think they need to avoid that going into the next 2 weeks.
I think the calendar as probably, I hope they've refreshed. I hope they've gotten a break in. Do you know what I mean? Because they're going to need it. The way their campaign with the league and even going into the championship, it's all kind of front loaded now. Look how they have to be on the ball straight away. So let's hope that regardless of what happens at the weekend, that they're fresh and bouncing going into Munster, and that they're not a tired team going into Munster. But with the youth, I would expect a bounce.
Well, that's the $1 million question with Tip going into the championship. Have they taken the old word you love? Have they taken the learnings from the previous 2 years, where they've kind of left something in reserve, knowing that they're going into a taxing Munster championship, and potentially if they get out of Munster, they've the All Ireland series to follow on from.
Yeah, 100%. From Cork's point of view, Mull, we're probably focusing heavily on Tip, and it's only naturally that we're saying, oh, they don't want a situation to happen like last year or whatever. If Cork don't get their hands on silverware, it'd be a bit of a disaster, would it not? Given that we seem to be handing them trophies nearly already, or dishing out trophies to them. It would not be an ideal scenario for them to leave their home patch at the weekend without a trophy.
No, absolutely not. Considering, I think even the likes of the Hoggies, the Seamus Harnedy, some of the elder statesmen, I think it's kind of important that, they can pick up a national title. I don't think any of those even have a national title.
No.
They've obviously had the Munster success in 17 and 18, and they've lost the last couple of league finals to Waterford. They lost the last league final to Lean Cattle, I think it was in 2021. So, if they were to lose another final, that would be possibly a bit of a setback for them. And, to lose the league final then, in front of a huge home following, possibly wouldn't go down well for this Cork side right now. But I don't know, Michael. I just think they're motoring so well. I'm hearing, the talk coming out of Cork is that, Hayes is nearly back already. Whether he'll play a part the weekend, but he most certainly will be back for the championship. But yeah, I just think the weekend. I think the fact as well that they got beaten by Tipperary already in the group stage of the league, and I think Tip had the bit between their teeth. They had the bit of a chip. They had the bit of the hunger. The bit of the drive that they were trying to kind of reverse the odds or that match last year. And I think that's potentially what Tipperary are going to have to bring to the table the weekend if they're going to stay in this match and have a good chance of winning this match is come with that bit of drive, come with that bit of hunger again. And I think Cork will most certainly, I think they'll have the bit between the teeth the weekend,
Just on Tip, Mull, have you been impressed with the way their team has been placed? I think they have a lot of lads in their right positions now. That's not necessarily to say I wouldn't have said necessarily that Craig Morgan was a midfielder. I knew he was a ball player, but he's done a hell of a lot of hurling out there. And just with a couple of comments in about your team of the league so far, I think we had 3 going into 2 positions. So we put Craig Morgan as close to midfield as you possibly could without putting him into midfield. He was left wing back on your team at the weekend. But Owen Connolly's been really, really solid at the edge of the square. Ronan Martyr's been very good. Brian O'Mara's been good. Michael Breen. If you look at them, like we're after naming 4, like 6'1", 6'2" defenders, mobile, robust. You throw Sam O'Farrell into the mix. You throw Doyle into the mix. Darren McCarthy up top. Jake Morris out at 11. Are you liking the kind of new kind of Tip team and the new structure? Nice little bit of change to it, strong down the spine as well.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing I think Liam Cahill really kind of went after in this league is the kind of, I think come the end of the league is that he would have a real settled team where he could, really kind of call on 13 lads that he was assured of, and he had to trust in to go and take on this Munster Championship campaign. And I'd say, look, right now, they definitely have that. They've definitely 13, even 14 of their 15 guaranteed for the Munster Championship. And as you just touched on, it's right down the middle, down that spine, that they look really strong. And even moving Morgan to midfield, was, it looks like it looks like a bit of a masterstroke, and it's injecting energy, it's injecting more legs from 8 up to 15 and even the placement of Jake Morris at number 11, he was extremely unlucky not to get into me 15. I think he's probably been another lad who's had a really, really good league campaign. And Alan Tynan. The one worry I would have is outside of Craig Morgan, Alan Tynan, Jake Morris, the others, do they have that kind of injection of pace to kind of go right, take on their man and go straight for goal, in contrast to what Cork have, where they get the ball and it's just direct running at the goal. And as I touched on, hence that's why Jake is out at number 11, and that's probably why they're probably struggling to score goals right now, and why Cork are the opposite. They're banging in goals, and I think that's going to be a major part of Sunday's matches. Can Tipperary, work those opportunities where they can create enough goal scoring opportunities and raise a couple of green flags and try and prevent Cork on the other hand from not scoring goals.
From a Tip point of view, you can't let Cork build up ahead of steam. You can't give them that space to play around the ball. And I think something probably that hasn't been discussed yet, and I know there's conversations going on in the background, it's a tricky one from a player's point of view and from a manager's point of view. Look at the amount of red cards that have been dished out throughout the league, right? And now you have lads going into a national final. I would say it's odds on that there will be a red card in either Division 1A or Division 1B final based on the league so far. So all of a sudden, you want lads to go in blood and thunder, but there's also that really serious thing hanging in the background. You're missing the first round of the championship now. You're not missing a league game. You're missing the first round of the championship if you're sent off at the weekend. Does that dilute it at all from a player's point of view? You want to win a national final. You want to go gung-ho for it. But you have to be fairly careful as well, because it's okay to miss a league game per se. It ain't okay to be suspended for the first round of the championship. All of a sudden, just say a big player is suspended, just say your centre back is sent off, and then all of a sudden you're rejigging your team completely for championship. It's a funny kind of a mind frame for players to be going into a national final in.
Well, look, if players, looking on within the last couple of weeks, haven't taken on board, some of the cards that have been dished out, and mostly read, and don't take it on board the weekend. I mean, I'm sure both managers, both Liam Cahill and Pat Ryan, will be banging the drum to their players and saying, "Look, lads, there's a certain element, right? We can play on the edge, but it's got to be within reason. It's got to be within reason and within the rules." And I think they will be banging the drum and say, "Look, more so than anything else, we can ill afford, leave aside missing the Munster final or missing the first round of the Munster Championship. They'll be banging the drum, as I've just banged the drum the last couple of weeks. We can ill afford to go down to 14 men. If Tipperary were to go down to 14 men against this Cork team who are full of energy, full of running, and you're giving them an extra body, I mean, there's only going to be one result. And likewise, you will be thinking, similar with Tipperary. If they had numerical advantage, it's advantage Tipperary.
Give me your verdict, Mull.
Look, I'm going to stick with it. And look, Cork supporters won't like me building up this Cork team, and they're saying, "Oh, geez, am I building them up for a fall?" And people, if I hear this talk again, are Cork peaking too soon? I've said it from the get-go, from the start of the year. I think Cork will win everything this year. I think this will be the first of 3 trophies they're going to win this year. So I'm going to go for Cork to win by 4 or 5 points.
There's no fence outside that van anyway, Mull, because you ain't sitting on no fence. Yeah. I do think Cork will win as well. It would be, I hope for the sake of Tipperary's sake and the sake of the Munster Championship, I hope it's really, really tight, but I would be expecting Cork to win. Interesting though, Brian Hayes has probably been their player of the league, and they're more than likely going to be without him. I doubt they'll rush him back to play a league final. I'd say they'll have him primed for the first round of Munster. Mull, just on suspensions there, obviously James Mann's suspension wasn't overturned. The red card against Waterford, which, listen, I don't agree with it, even taking my green, white and gold hat off. He's going to miss this weekend. Probably better to miss this weekend in a way than miss the first round of Leinster. But Waterford against Offaly, would you read much into the game down in Walsh Park, or the fact that Offaly were down a player for so long? It's kind of hard. Is it hard to read too much into it?
Look, I'll throw it back to you. I suppose what Waterford can't get sucked into is all this talk of, what's the approach, and even myself, as I asked the question to you 2 weeks ago or last week, what's the Offaly approach going to be with the up and coming under 20 game with Galway on the Tuesday? And even for me to be even asking that question, I see this only going one way with Johnny Kelly. And look, you've seen time and time again, I was involved with the Waterford under 21s in 2015, and you see it. Senior gets first preference, and I don't think Johnny Kelly is going to be saying to himself or saying to his management team, we're going to rest players, or we're going to look after the under 20s. He's going to look after his end of it, and his end of it is going to be to try and win a national title for Offaly on Sunday. Hence why I think he'll pick as strong a team as possible. That will give Offaly the best opportunity of trying to win this match. And I suppose, look, it'll be over to Lee O'Connor then to worry about Tuesday. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. You've only 48 hours recovery. But I would be shocked if Johnny Kelly and the management team don't pick a strong team for this Sunday. And if they do pick a strong team, albeit they're going to be missing James Mann and 1 or 2 more, I think this will be a good test for Waterford, a good challenge for Waterford. And I see this being very, very competitive. And I would see this going right down to the wire, with possibly Waterford winning it in the last 10 minutes. Maybe looking at their bench, maybe offloading the bench, throwing a few lads off the bench who made a massive impact the last day in Walsh Park. And I think Waterford we'll be thinking might get over the line by 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, you asked the question there about Offaly. I could guarantee you the approach will be put the best team available out on the pitch. The 20s is obviously hugely important. Senior takes precedence, and regardless of how their 2 games go in the under 20, they're still in it. Like, all 3 teams go through, like, so, and they're going to be easing the likes of Adam Screeney and a few more back into action.
Where is Screeney at?
Yeah, he's not a million miles away. He's close, Mull. Now, he won't be playing senior or anything this weekend. Big blow for Offaly, actually. Turgeinen picked up another hamstring injury, so he's going to be out for the foreseeable now, from what I can see, and the foreseeable could be until the end of the county season, realistically, and that's very unfortunate, because he's made for somewhere like Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well.
Does he need surgery?
Not sure about that. I'm not sure about that, but his wheels are made for somewhere like Páirc Uí Chaoimh, somewhere like Croke Park, so that's going to be a big loss for Offaly. But outside of that, I do think they'll be picking, like, look at the Division 3 football final last weekend. Offaly went as strong as they possibly could. Look at they have a trophy in the cabinet now. That's priceless. If Offaly were to beat Waterford at the weekend, again, priceless. Another piece of silverware, another sign that we're coming. I don't know about you, it's always better to get promoted with a trophy in your hands than in second place. That would be my way of looking at it anyway.
Well, you look at the Wexford footballers, won every game, and I'd know Owen Porter, and I know his dad from being with Cushinstown, and they invested so much into that league campaign, and to win every game, and then to come up short in the final and underperform in the final. So yeah, it's particularly with the lower divisions, I think it's the right way to go. Albeit getting promoted, but winning a trophy at the same time. And I suppose, look, that's probably the one disappointing thing from both Offaly supporters and Waterford supporters. I don't think there's no one arguing about the venue. Jesus, it's fantastic that a national final has been played in the venue. It's just the one disappointing thing for me is that, there's genuine supporters who would go the length, the breadth, and the country won't get an opportunity to watch this match the weekend. And it's the manner in which it played out. It would nearly remind you of, something similar to, when the Oasis tickets went on sale. Jesus, that's a good way of describing it, where. Yeah. You can get in on the queue, and if you get a ticket, great. If you don't, well, I wouldn't say tough shit, but that's there's terrace tickets there if you wanted. But I go back to it. There should have been an allocation set aside for both Offaly and Waterford, and then whatever way Tipperary and Cork wanted to play out their end of it in dispersing tickets, that's what should have played out, really,
Yeah, it's just the disappointing thing, particularly from, well, I know it's from a Tip point of view as well, Tip, Offaly and Waterford more so, is that tickets were gone by the time a lot of people had the chance to get online. But you're not thinking about on a Monday 13 days before a game, you're not thinking about getting tickets. You're only thinking about the weekend. Then by the time Tuesday morning came, most of the tickets were gone.
My only fear is that, look, you see when there's a double header with the All-Ireland quarter-finals, particularly, some people will come and go into these matches, and particularly with it being a 4:00 throw-in, and particularly with the weather being so good, as you can see with my head, I'm after getting scalded there. Scalded there the weekend, didn't have the factor 50 on, but you'll even find if there's 35,000 tickets, just say Cork are after snapping up even 30,000 tickets, and the weather is good, lads are having a couple of drinks outside, to decide, right, I'm going to rock up at 3:15 for the game. I don't think it would serve well for both Offaly and Waterford playing a National League final in a half empty or a 3/4 empty stadium. Now, look, from Peter Quealy's point of view, I think you're looking on a bit like Tipperary, knowing that they have to go to Cork in 3 weeks' time in the championship. It's a trial run to get a run out there, and I think that's possibly in the Waterford thinking as well, that we won't really kind of give out too much about the venue, because knowing that they have to go down there the last game in the round robin, and please God they'll be still in the championship. So it might be a bad thing from Waterford point of view, going down, getting a game under our belt, getting a feel for the place, knowing that they're going to be playing Cork in the last game.
perfect road test for Tipperary and Waterford, going down to the venue and getting used to. Listen, it is important to get used to the logistics of things and how the time needed to travel, where they're going to warm up, where they're going to get the grub beforehand, what the pitch is like, how it plays, etc. I think that's all crucial. My verdict: I'm going to let my head rule my heart. I do think Waterford will win, maybe by 3-4, as long as Offaly are really, really competitive. If Offaly bring the same fight as they did with 14 the last day, it'll be a cracker of a game. And let's hope there's no red cards or any of that kind of crack, and that everyone is still free to play come championship in a couple of weeks. But Mull, great stuff. And listen, if Offaly do win, maybe we'll have some sort of a forfeit or something like that. You're a heavy favourite, so I'm not going to go through a forfeit. But you might wear a green, white and gold hat or something like that to the show over the coming weeks if Offaly do win.
And it'll be better than riding down the quay in Waterford naked. Will I ever let that down?
Where did you say that, or where was that? Because that was quoted everywhere.
No, it was at an RT launch the radio, and Pat Spillane said if anyone outside of Mayo, Kerry or Dublin won the All Ireland, but Pat being the Q Kerry man, he knew that anyone outside those three bosses weren't going to win the All Ireland. I'd happily ride in. I'd happily go in the nude and into the nude, and or go in the nude into the winning county. And Jesus, me being me, Jesus, I was kind of just having a bit of a crack. I said, Jesus, Waterford won it. I right down naked in the key of watch kind of push. I can safely say now, Verney, it's nearly 9 years. That opportunity is gone now. I tell you, I was going to stick to my guns. I would have had no choice. Back then, 2017, even 2018, there was probably a timeline there. If Waterford did get over the line, I would have had no choice. And, I'm probably going to get a charity involved and try and raise a few money. But I can safely say now, as I'm piling on the pounds and I'm getting older and probably getting a bit more common sense when to open my mouth and not to open my mouth, that opportunity is gone now. So I can safely say they had that opportunity. That's dead in the water.
The coupon has expired, Mull, but I can tell you something. There's some very creative people online that have already put images together, and they're all out there for everybody to see. But great stuff, Mull. We'll chat again over the coming weeks. Good man. Talk to you soon.
You're welcome.